It all began with a pleading offer from Mr. Knott, one of Boston's minor landlords. His most recent acquisition, a place the locals called the Old Corbett House, was not drawing the interest he thought it would. Persistent rumors that the house was haunted or cursed kept prospective tenants away. No one wanted to reside in that location after what supposedly had happened to the Marcario family. Looking to give the house a clean bill of health, Mr. Knott reached out to two of Boston's most stand-up private investigators, Jonathan Jackson Hewitt and Ahan Singh. The task was far from their usual fare, but the promise of cash in recent lean times was enough to sway their decision. With a nod and firm handshake, they accepted the job. In the house's dimly lit confines, Ahan and Jonathan combed through the debris of the past. Every creak of the floorboards, every scuttle of rats, and every cold draft alluded to the circumstances that drove away the Marcario family. Rotted journal entries told of odd sights seen at night, of the feeling of being watched, and hateful whispers slowly turning the family against each other. A sharp rap at the door shattered the silence of the investigation, announcing the arrival of a local police constable. With cold eyes and stern demeanor, the officer demanded to know their business, and offered a warning that the house has a troubled history, and that if the investigators knew what was good for them, they would quit this investigation. Undeterred by the ominous warnings of the policeman, Ahan and Jonathan pressed on, and so they ascended the creaking stairs to the second floor. The dilapidated bathroom was tarnished by years of neglect, and cobwebs clung to the corners like tattered curtains, and the air was heavy with the stench of mildew and decay. As Ahan stepped into the room, his senses were assailed by a chill in the air. His eyes wandered over to the mirror, and within its surface he saw it. A ghostly apparition, its wizened form hovering behind him in the reflection, staring back with menacing intent from its depths. Frozen in place, Ahan could only watch as the specter leaned in closer and closer, eyes burning with an otherworldly intensity. It was only when Jonathan arrived that the apparition vanished, leaving Ahan with shaken nerves and the unsettling realization that something unnatural was lurking within the old Corbett house, and that perhaps this place did deserve its ill reputation. Jonathan later combed through the dusty relics within an abandoned bedroom, learning more about the prior residents who fled in haste. Amidst his digging in the debris, distant sounds of children's play and laughter caught his ear. They sang a discordant melody from the grounds below. Jonathan approached the window to catch a glimpse of what he was certain to be impossible when a sudden movement caught his eye. With a gut-wrenching lurch, the bed in the middle of the room shifted across the floor, propelled by an unseen force. And with a cry of shock and pain, Jonathan was sent careening through the shattered glass. As he lay on the cold earth, gasping for breath and clutching at his injured ribs, Jonathan's gaze turned towards the window above. He saw nothing but emptiness. With equal parts shared determination and trepidation, Ahan and Jonathan descended into the darkness of the basement, their flashlights casting feeble beams of light against the shadows that crawled along the cold stone walls. Every step they took echoed through the silence. As they sifted through the ruined furnishings, there was a sudden movement and a glint of metal flashing in the dim light. With impeccable reflexes, Ahan drew his sword and intercepted the deadly dagger before it could embed itself in Jonathan's chest. With a resounding clang, the ceremonial blade was deflected into the nearest wall, revealing a hidden sanctum, a secret second room within the bowels of the house. Jonathan and Ahan stepped past the threshold into the hidden chamber, where a dread settled over them like a heavy shroud. The chamber lay empty, save for a solitary dais in the center, upon which lay the desiccated form of Walter Corbett himself. His grotesque appearance worse than could have been predicted, for his chest cavity was open, revealing a hideous tangle of veins and arteries that extended like tendrils into the very walls of the house, binding the estate to his twisted will. Before they could react, Mr. Corbett unleashed a psychic assault upon them, the malevolent energy crashing against their minds like a tidal wave. Ahan, overwhelmed by the onslaught, was knocked unconscious, and his body slumped to the ground in a heap. In pure desperation, Jonathan's scholarly demeanor fell away as he abandoned reason for savagery. With a roar of defiance, he launched himself at Mr. Corbett with all the ferocity of a wounded animal, and delivered headbutt after headbutt to the undead abomination until it was reduced into a shattered pile of bone and skin. With Mr. Corbett battered, broken, and unmoving, Jonathan and the recovered Ahan left the accursed estate, spirits weary from the ordeal. They stepped into the cool night air. Taking a moment to reflect on the case, they knew that their tale would find no willing ears to listen, and no minds open to believe the horrors they had witnessed. They made their way back to Mr. Knott, looking every bit the worse for wear, and made a simple declaration: the house has been successfully expunged of all malfeasance. As the words hung in the air, devoid of further details, Mr. Knott accepted the report without question and handed over the payment. Task complete and pockets lined with cash, the two investigators turned their minds to their next case that would await them. While their approach may have lacked the refinement and meticulousness of others, the undeniable efficacy of their methods was beyond dispute. Little did they know that this straightforward investigative style would present unforeseen tragedy in their subsequent case, but that is a tale best left for another telling.